Hello everyone, I'm Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden. We are joined today by Pastor Scott. He is the founder, CEO, and president of Matthew's Hope, and our Shelley Bradford, who is the vice president and executive director for Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 20, Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Amendment 8 and how it relates to the local ordinance aimed at removing the homeless from public places. In prior episode, you guys talked about this a little bit, but for those of us who aren't familiar with this amendment, can you give us a little recap of what Amendment 8 is?
It obviously, it wasn't written this way back when the original document was put together. But what it does touch on now is that it touches on cruel and unusual punishment, okay? And then it focuses on homelessness from the standpoint it's been fought in the courts. It's continued to fight in the courts. In fact, what's interesting is there's several cases going on right now nationwide that could certainly develop into what we become as a society when it comes to homelessness, based on how those get through the court system. But the part of it that really gets my attention was it was satisfied in the courts that if someone was homeless and there was no shelter available, that you could sleep in a public place and not be arrested. You could pull out your sleeping bag, your blanket, your what have you, and sleep in that public place, and you could not be arrested. Now, what's happening over in Seminole County right now is that they're actually following it to the letter of the law. Mm-hmm. It actually is following that if there's no shelter, you can be arrested or fined, I believe, up to $500, the way it's set up. The challenge I have with it then is I at least commend them for the fact that they're following it to the letter of the law, but my question is in the 14 years as Matthew's Hope and 20 years that I've been doing this with homelessness, the shelter's been full since that time. So my question is going to be, are the shelters going to communicate with the police department on a daily basis and say, this is what it looks like we have available? And most shelters, unless you're out there by 2 o'clock in the morning and you have $10 in your pocket, you aren't getting in. So my next question then is...
You meant the afternoon, right?
I'm sorry, in the afternoon, what I said, I'm sorry, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which we can touch on that in a few minutes also because you want to know how that contributes to panhandling.
Definitely.
But let's just focus on this for now, is that they're following it to the law, but is what communication is going to happen between law enforcement and the shelters? And when they say we have 6 beds available, well, if they had 6 beds available, will they have 6 beds available when somebody gets there? And is law enforcement going to be taking the homeless to these places to make sure they've been properly placed? Or are they going to be left outside the gate, and then when somebody else comes along and says, hey, okay, then who's going to complain that they're sleeping outside the gate? Because at that point, it should be legal for them to do so.
Right.
So,
I mean, why are we putting this on the law enforcement? Still, why? That's so much that they have to do. We are not, but why is this okay?
You know, it's funny. I called my daughter the other day, Molly, and I'm very proud of her. She's a police officer, and I said, Molly, if I ever hear, we had a couple of our folks arrested recently for unlawful use of a shopping cart, which just blows my mind. And I said, if I ever find that in your jacket, this is their folder on who they are, and I tell your husband the same thing. If I ever find you arrest somebody for illegal use of a shopping cart, which I'm not even sure what that means still, I'll drive over there and beat your ass myself. Okay? Now, while everybody gets upset and sends me nasty grams for saying ass, it might be the same people that got upset and said they won't watch our podcast because it says I say no BS.
Oh. Wow.
I didn't say bullshit. I said no BS. Now I've said it, so let's get that out of the way.
Let's get that
we got to stop getting caught up in things that don't matter.
Right.
What matters is if we're going to claim ourselves as Christians, then let that be seen in our actions. It's always said word and action, but when it said word and action, what it wasn't talking about is if you said a cuss word or assimilated a BS meaning so, let's get upset that we're arresting people that are mentally ill, people that have been put out on the street for most of them for nothing they've done on their own. The new homeless.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
They can't meet the standards of what it takes to get into an apartment now. I mean, quite honestly, there's people on my staff that it weren't for who we are, they would be homeless themselves. Let's just call it for what it is. And are you going to tell me these people that have done good in their lives, they've followed a godly life, they did this thing because they can't qualify for what someone has decided is possible, they're going to be put on the street and now they can also be arrested? Now, that is something, if you want to get upset about, get upset about.
Right. Exactly.
But us calling this thing BS, which it is,
Yeah.
or whatever I just said a few minutes ago, just stop it. Don't watch us. That made that
No,
easy.
watch us.
Follow me around all day. You think this is fun to watch? You should follow me around all day. I
See
mean,
what comes
you know,
up.
I'm not pissed off just here. I'm pissed off all the time because I'm tired of what we're.
Right,
You
absolutely.
know, I'm not the guy who uses the word grieved. It makes me uncomfortable even. My heart grieves. No, I'm grieving over this. I just, you know. Anyhow.
It's upsetting. Well, let's dive back into all of that in a minute, but I want to share something with everybody, and I'm going to read it here just so I can get it right. Ultimate Springs recently joined several other local governments across our region in banning overnight camping on public property. It also bans people from spending the night in a car on government property, such as City Hall. Now, if convicted, an individual could face up to, like you said, Pastor Scott, $500 in fines and up to 60 days in jail. However, authorities say they will not enforce the ban in the areas if the homeless shelters are full for the night. Now, City Manager Frank Martz said, "We really don't have a homeless problem in our city." What we
Well,
typically-
Frank, call Scott Ballou, 407-905-9500. Let's talk about that.
What we typically do is we ask somebody, what can we do to help? And we always offer to take someone to find shelter. And if we can't find a place for them at a shelter, we put them up in hotels. He continued, "I'm very proud of what we do in the compassionate service that we provide. And homelessness in our region and nationally is something that we're all going to have to figure out how to address," he said. "It really requires something other than every little city having their own shelter." Now, going back to the camping ordinance, what's your initial reaction to hearing about this latest ordinance?
I've lived in Altamont Springs. I have lived in West Orange County. Never in my life have I ever met anybody who said, "Hey, let's get the family together and go camping in Ecoe, Florida." Or even Altamont, which is a
Right.
beautiful city. And in fairness to Altamont and Seminole, there's a lot of things they've done right. But this suggestion that they don't have a homeless problem, come on, you know.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
Come on. You know, homeless is up to 12% nationwide. In Florida, we're the fastest growing homeless population in the country right now in Central Florida. The numbers are coming up. The point in time count is coming up. It's way off, I guarantee it, because even the number they claim, we ourselves at Matthew's Hope are meeting that number by ourselves. So you're suggesting all the homeless people are
Definitely.
coming here?
Right.
You know, let's call it what it is. It's a homeless law.
Yeah, they're naive.
Okay, and I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed for any public official that wants to call it something else. They should be embarrassed because it's really should be uncomfortable lying to people.
Sure.
Okay, and they're not even uncomfortable with it.
Right.
And the sad part is you know, what's interesting, Tracy, is I think about this as I sit here, and I do get worked up, and you get to hear about it all the time. And part of it is I'm getting older, and I'm quite honestly don't give a shit. Yeah, I said it twice. What people think. I love God. But I love the God that we talk about in Scripture that talks about love God and love His people. And I am so sick and tired of for especially Christians, claiming they're Christians. Christian never has to tell you they're a Christian. And so let's just touch on that again. Now we do people who are in public service. Okay, if you've gone into public service, why did you go there?
Right.
What was the purpose? Then serve the public. Okay? We have to find, not here is not an answer.
Right.
And for some reason, we have allowed that to become the answer. Not here, not here, not here. Well, that's not an answer because we're coming up with all these laws. And the first thing I'd say is, do we not learn anything from the Jews?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if you look in the Old Testament, they literally came up with 1,613 laws. And because the problem was every time they came up with a law, they had to come up with another law to offset that law
Right.
because it affected these people, and they really just wanted to affect those people.
Right.
Okay? So think about this. And you know, I'm not this tree-hugging liberal that some people might think I am. I'm pretty conservative, quite honestly, if people really know me. And for the tree-hugging liberals, I love you too. But the point is, before I offend everybody today, and I get more nasty grams than I got time for.
We're going to get a lot of views or no views.
We'll either get, and you know, and listen, send me a nasty gram if you may, but just do me a favor. It's kind of like I told my children. I always told the girls, I'm not going to tell you what to believe when you grow up. What I'm asking you to do is know why you believe it.
Right,
And be able
absolutely.
to articulate it.
Yep.
So if you're going to send me a nasty gram, don't do it just because. Help me understand what I'm missing.
Definitely.
Because I'm watching this stuff, and I'm watching our numbers grow at both locations every single time we open. I'm watching donations. Our donor base keeps growing, but donations are down because the economy is suffering. And I'm just watching more and more, and I'm watching nonprofits shut down, and I'm watching the government make it harder and harder. And what people don't understand is if we keep on the path we're on, we're going to give up our. You don't think that those laws don't affect you and me?
Right.
Give it time, because what happens, you just open a door to another law. We have a sidewalk law now that, again, was not intended for the homeless in Orlando, that we're going to arrest people for basically impeding the walkway for somebody else.
Interesting.
Okay? And what they made it very clear the day this passed, couple weeks ago, when it passed, what they said at that time was this was not intended to create more problems for the homeless. And the very first arrest they made was a homeless guy.
Shelley, what was your initial reaction to this?
Sad. I was really sad because, you know, just like Scott said, this is not geared towards the homeless, but it is.
But yeah.
It is.
Right.
Nobody's going to arrest me for sitting on the sidewalk.
Right.
It is, for sure.
Well, you know, and the comment was made, you know, the guy had a rap sheet, and he did. You know, the guy is also mentally ill. Okay? And again, there's got to be a better answer than not here. Arresting someone who's mentally ill is simply doing this. It's taking a police officer that has sworn to protect and serve off the streets while they're at central booking.
Which is what I was trying to say earlier. I probably wasn't as clear, but why are we putting all of this on our officers?
It's not fair to them.
It's not fair to them. That's
Okay?
not what they went to school for.
And many of them, when you talk to them privately, don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But that's not their call.
Yeah.
How do you think it's going to work with or what's the alternative for they have to remove them and find them housing? How do you think that's going to work for the law enforcement?
First off, if there's housing available, then would everybody let us know where that's at? Because there's not. We're literally participating in a grant right now, okay, that is designed for us to help identify those who, mostly to no fault of their own, have become homeless due to typically, I mean, our biggest, fastest growing, and I've said this in other times we've met, is the seniors, people with physical and mental disabilities, people that are terminally ill, things like that. We identify them. The problem is the waiting list could be up in the way of a year. Some of those people will be dead before that ever happens.
Right.
And so I
don't
look
see
at
how this is going to work then.
well, I don't know. And the thing is, when they say we're going to do that, exactly where are you taking them? Now, maybe something's happened in Seminole County that I don't know. But in Brevard County, in Orange County, where we're heavily invested, there's no place to go. We have people walk into our office every day. I can't tell you how many women right now over the age of 80, first-time homeless, and they don't know where to go, and there's no place to put them.
So
Now you can't sleep in your car either, because that's, you know.
Right, because they're not allowed to camp in the public places. So they're going to end up on private property, or what happens then?
Who's going to allow that?
Where's the solution? This is a never-ending circle.
We don't work on a solution. We just keep kicking the can down the street. Okay? Or listen, here's what's interesting. Los Angeles has finally decided to address their homeless problem. After Skid Row went from being a couple blocks to several miles.
Yep.
Okay, now they want to address it. The problem is when you start to address something, when the fire has, the spark is now turned into a forest fire, and you don't have the equipment, everything's going to burn down.
Right.
And that's kind of where they're at. They're at this position is where how are they going to fight that? I commend them for finally saying, hey, maybe not here is not the answer.
So I'm curious, how does Amendment 8 relate to this ordinance?
Well, here's the thing. Cruel and unusual punishment. Exactly, if you're punishing someone because there's no place for them to go, that's cruel and unusual. Having no place to go is not a crime. And that's otherwise known as homelessness, so cruel and unusual. Finding a homeless person $500, like that doesn't even have the $10.
I feel the average person wouldn't even have
right
that
now,
in this day
if
and age.
someone had to
I feel like
arrest,
that's cruel
I had to come up with $500.
somebody who
it's
has
like,
a job.
Yeah. So now you're building a criminal record for them, okay, that's going to make them harder to get housed in the future,
Right.
harder to get a job, okay? And then what happens, they're unable to pay that fine, and often then what happens is a warrant is out for their arrest. They get arrested again because they didn't pay the fine. Now the judge gives them another $500 fine. And anybody that tells you this is not happening, again, they are lying. I would defy them to show me that this is not true. I'm sick and tired of people looking at me, and I meet with a lot of public officials now, and it's something I dread because I really feel like they're just looking at me and just giving me lip service.
Yeah.
Because we keep talking about how we're going to address it. We're putting together a committee. We're hiring an outside firm to come in and assess the issue and what we should do with it. But then we don't do anything.
Right.
Give me all that money that they're wasting. Our jails are full of people that are mentally ill and homeless people. Our prisons, mentally ill and homeless people. Take that same money, and let's do something.
Right.
But you know what? Nobody really cares because as long as it doesn't affect us directly, it's not my problem.
They only care while it suits them.
Yeah.
So Shelley, the city says that if they're not able to find shelter, that they'll put them up in hotels. Do you find that a solution? And if not, why?
Oh, maybe for the night. But where are they going to go tomorrow? Yeah, no, it's not. We need to find a sustainable solution, which is, right now, this is not it, for sure. This is not it.
And to suggest that there's an easy answer, there isn't one.
Yeah, no,
There isn't.
not.
And there's not one answer that's going to work for everybody. But what we need to do is step back and go, okay, exactly how much money are we spending? Paying law enforcement to do this, paying them for 3 hots and a cot, it just goes
For
on.
a temporary solution.
The tax dollars, yeah.
How does the shelter system work?
It
The
doesn't.
ones that you know about, like, do you go wait in line, and then if there's room, you go in?
You had mentioned you
or-
were going to talk about this more, yes. Yeah.
First
I'm
off,
curious how
it
to-
doesn't work. Let's just get that out of the way. And that's going to get a lot more people upset, okay? If it worked, why do we have the problem we have? Okay? First off, in Orange County, we have 3 shelters, all within walking distance. The largest population
of themselves. Not close to us.
Yes, okay, they're not here.
So they're not spread out, they're just...
No, they're
there.
all within walking
Okay.
distance of downtown Orlando.
Gotcha.
That way, rather than address the homeless problem, what we can do is try to hide the homeless problem. Let's call it for what it is.
Do you think that's the underlining solution that they're putting?
Oh yeah, the city
hiding
beautiful.
them?
We don't want the homeless people around. I mean, look, I've lived long enough to watch Lake Eola be remodeled, so to speak, several times. You really want to make a difference, take a look at what's going on. Okay, and I'm not blaming Buddy Dyer. Okay, and I'm not blaming Jerry Demings. I'm blaming all of them because it's going to take a cooperative effort, public and private together. Cities not having their own little thing they're doing. And working together and say, hey, what are we doing rather than playing musical chairs with the homeless, which is what we do. A Popka pushes them out of there. A Coe pushes them out of there. This goes over there. But here's the interesting thing is I always hear about these transient people. They're only transient from the standpoint the woods have disappeared due to development. So they're moving around our cities. But the reality of it is if Rockledge drops homeless people into Cocoa, within a day or so, they're going to be right back in Rockledge.
Right.
That's home. They may not have a roof,
Sure.
but that's home. And
Where
our
they're familiar.
records, our records have indicated over the years, like 85% of the people we've served have a tie to the community they live in.
So how does relying on a shelter prevent somebody from getting a job?
One of the challenges you have, and if you know the answer, I mean, I feel like I don't want to dominate here, but I clearly get worked up about this.
You too.
We've dedicated our lives to this.
Yeah.
And if people think we're doing it because it's fun and we make a lot of money, they just don't know us, okay? I'd work for free if I could, because I find it to be such an injustice. I'm finding in my 60s, Frankie and I, Pastor Frankie's been with me for a long time, and he's going to be with us on another episode. And the truth is, we would do this just because we see what it is. We believe it's what God's called us to do. Shelley is here because of what God called us to do. It's not about, my biggest fear, and I joke, I was talking to my mom on the way over here today, and I said, Mom, my retirement plan looks something like this. Someone spites me on the street when I become homeless again, and they go, "Hey, isn't that Pastor Matthew or whatever
you are today.
whatever he was? Wasn't it the homeless guy that was once homeless and then he helped other people out of homelessness? We should probably invite him in." That's my retirement plan.
Yeah.
Because you don't do this because there's money in it. If somebody is, God forbid, I don't get it. But I am passionate about this, because when we go back to what your question actually was, sorry.
I was going to let you finish your thought, and then
I know.
was going to
I feel like a counseling session.
No.
I'm going to have to write you a check when I'm done here.
I'll send you an invoice.
Thank you. What a lot of people don't realize is shelters aren't free.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here it also contributes to the panhandling, because what job are you going to take that allows you to leave at 1:30 so you can be in line at 2 o'clock down at the coalition or the rescue mission or what have you, and to be able to get in for the night?
Okay.
Because there's not enough beds. And I don't know if there's still a bed law. I'm trying to look into this, but one time there was a bed law, and the idea behind it was if we limit the number of beds available, they won't come.
Oh.
Well, that's not true. Okay. Now the other side of it is, how are we going to finance this? Florida not having a state tax, it's a great thing why people come here. The other side of it is it doesn't finance social services.
Right.
So that gets a little tricky as well.
And another thing that we've been told recently a lot is that the shelters downtown, people don't feel safe in them anymore.
Oh, okay.
And so that contributes a lot to it as well. If they don't even want to go there because they don't feel safe.
That should get us some more phone calls and emails.
Sorry.
No, but that's...
But that's what they tell us.
I've been told that so many times lately,
Right. And I think we've talked about it before. If a man comes with his child, he's not able to go in, or...
Well...
What was that? Remind me what that was.
Most shelters are either developed for single men, not even single women, single men. But if there's a male child involved, I believe it's the age of 11. I have to double check this.
I don't know.
But 11 is considered puberty now, so they cannot be allowed in a shelter.
Okay.
So now you take that single dad who's actually trying to take care of his male son, who is trying to live in a van, because we've actually had this experience, living in a van, now is being told, well, you can't park in a public place to sleep in, so you can get up in the morning and make sure your child gets to school, so maybe he does. There's so many rabbit holes this goes down that it bothers me that the general public either doesn't care or doesn't know.
Yeah.
Or is it just the fact that we care, but because it's not at the forefront of affecting us, we just kind of go, God, it's kind of like when you watch something on the news, you go, oh, that's awful. That's about as far as that goes until it hits your house.
Until it affects them, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Shelley, how is Matthew's Hope approach different than all the things that we're talking about? The temporary solutions or there is not a problem. but what do you guys
broad
do?
Question.
Well, maybe just focus on one of the things that is so different, because I do know that you guys do medical, you do mental health, you do showers, you do educating, you do all of these things. But what, maybe touch on a couple different ones.
Sure. We do try to meet people where they are and figure out how it is that we can help them in that moment. Not that we're a Waffle House for the homeless people either, but we do try to figure out what are your immediate needs, and then what can we do to help you move forward, not only fix your immediate needs. So, right now we have one of our advocates working with one of our homeless guys that owned a beautiful home, in Altamont Springs. In fact.
Oh, that's right. We got pictures of this guy's house. It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
That is funny. It was in Altamont Springs.
So let's talk about him, because, and like how you guys are helping him and not just giving him a room at a hotel or having him stand in line at a shelter. So tell me a little bit more about him in the process that he's going through.
So he's a senior male. We are looking at putting him in our housing, and we'll just work with him on what it is we can do to help him move forward and live comfortably.
Mm-hmm. And become self-sufficient, independent.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing.
I feel
Correct.
That's
Yes.
good explanation, because as we're talking about the shelters and all of these other different temporary solutions that they're hiding them, and all of these other things, that you guys have different steps for different
dignity.
people.
The dignity is so important.
It's not just one size fits all, and you're having steps for them, and they're having to make choices, and they're having to make changes so they can sustain it long term.
Well, that's it. And this particular gentleman got a divorce late in life. My guess is he probably didn't put up a whole lot of a fight thinking of himself.
That's not his personality.
And if because the home he lived in was I would live there in a second. I mean, a lot of times people still talk about what they had, and you kind of go, oh, that sounds interesting. And then we go look at it, and we go, oh my gosh.
Right.
This was their house, and they explained how the wheels fell off and what happened, and so a lot of it is connecting them with the resources, and unfortunately the resources are becoming few and far between.
Right, and that takes time.
And it takes a lot of time. And so for us, when we house someone, we always say we got to have an end game. We can't keep you. Most of our folks are with us 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
And so we try to develop what is their end game, whatever that means. Is it connecting them? We've got people that we've helped get into hospice. We have people that we've helped get into a senior adult living. What do we call it? Not adult. It's
assisted living.
Yes. We have, we've had people that we've helped get into various domestic violence type situations, out of those to help for that. So it's either directly doing helping them get the resources they need, but often what happens is we're the bridge to that. And some of the things that we have in our grant that we're working with has a bridge to that. The challenge is that bridge is freaking long.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to see, I don't want to bring somebody in and then turn around and say, hey, my funding dried up. Sorry, you're back on the street. I would rather not bring you in and give you that kind of hope. So we try to really do a great job of looking at the whole picture. Where they've been, where we think we can help them get to, how are we going to get there, what's it going to cost, what are we going to have to expect from them? What challenge do they have? Like I've got a paraplegic woman I'm helping now, and her and her husband.
Is that the lady who got the solar panel?
Got the solar panel on the
wheelchair?
So cute.
I am so thrilled by this because it kind of takes us off a little bit, but I want to tell you what happened to them.
That's what we do.
It's what we do. And that's why if you don't watch, you should watch, because it can be fun and entertaining, and never what's going to happen.
It's Amendment 8, but bonus
about that wheelchair.
But what happened to them is they had a place to live, and her husband Thomas Melissa, he may weigh 110 pounds soaking wet. So when that chair dies, it's like pushing a Volkswagen for him, because the way they're geared and the heaviness of the chair. I mean, that chair her body, her being able to live depends on that chair. They had a place, but it took so much time for him, because he has to do everything for her. He brings her in a couple days a week and bathes her, and takes care of her. And what happened is they got evicted from the place because he couldn't keep it up. Okay. Now, because they have an eviction, even though there's some resources I can tap into because of the eviction, until we fix that, they can't get into it.
Right.
Okay. So instead, they're living on the streets. And so we realized what a challenge this was, and we thought, well, here's what separates Matthew's Hope from, I think, everyone, is we looked at that and said, but what can we do to improve their quality of life? Mm-hmm. And it came down to a $150 solar panel with a charger system.
Wow.
And so it's connected to her wheelchair, and as long as there's some sunshine, that's going to gear that up, and they can keep powering, and then when they come in, we can do a supercharge on it while they're there, and it's going to be somewhat life-changing. And it might mean that Thomas's health will be better.
Definitely.
Because he's not killing himself trying to take care of this, so he'll be able to take care of her.
Physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we can all agree, I'm sure, that things need to change. Whose responsibility do you guys feel that is? Because I hear politicians saying, oh, there's not a problem, or oh, there's a problem, but we'll just send them to shelters, or oh, we'll just put them over here, like you said. But me looking at it, why can't we just duplicate you guys?
Wasn't that cute? Wouldn't that be such a great thing?
I just want to see you guys in every city, because I feel like you guys are helping these people actually.
Yeah.
Some people we talked about before, their choice is to stay on the street, and then you just help them look nice and everything else. But like you said, some people, by no fault to their own, their rent raised $1,000.
Yeah.
And they can't afford it.
I mean, I feel like it's my responsibility, just because that this is where God called me to be, and I'm not trying to be holy. I'm just saying I feel like it's our responsibility as Matthew's Hope, but
we can't
do it all. Right. And I mean, heck, the first couple weeks I was at Matthew's Hope, I was like, why aren't we everywhere? Now I'm like, I know why. I know why.
Yeah.
There's only so much of us.
It's a huge undertaking, and whenever somebody says, people love to send me ideas, and I say, that's a great idea. When would I implement that? I sleep 4 hours a night. It's exactly when would I implement that? I work 7 days a week. When would I implement that? There's a lot of great ideas out there. There's not enough workers. There's not, I even have churches, I love it when a pastor says to me, well, our church really isn't called to homeless ministry. And I'm thinking to myself, we all are called.
Right.
It's flat out in there. It's right there in Matthew 25. If you read the Bible, if you understood it, from start to finish. I tell people all the time, a pastor ever talks about eradicating homelessness, and I've heard some of them say there, get up, walk out, and make sure the door slams on the way out, because there is no way they understood. It says they will be with us. Yeah. Now, I will fight the argument that, and I could show you in Scripture where it says, you work, you eat. But it also says that we are to care for those that cannot care for themselves. And the truth is we have become very selfish. We become more self-centered than ever.
It's their problem, not ours.
And we will complain about the problem, but we won't put the effort in. That same energy.
So what would you encourage people to do to help make this change in the community?
If they can support, and they don't. This is not a commercial for Matthew's Hope. Wherever you live nationwide, whatever you believe is making an impact, if you can support them with your time, talents, and treasures, it's all those. Okay. However, if all you're able to do is complain, then at least complain to the right people. If you complain to our elected officials long enough, and it's real simple, call your mayor of Apopka. Ask him what his plan is for homelessness. Call your mayor of Orlando, of Ocoee, of the county, Orange County. Ask them, tell me what your plan is. Well, the first answer is there is no plan. The second thing you're going to hear is we're looking at it.
Right.
And then I'm going to remind them when I go to these meetings, you know, you said that 10 years ago when I was here. You said that last year when I was here. At some point, you got to quit looking at it and take an action.
Yeah.
Okay? And if they say, well, we don't have a plan and we're working on it, say, well, how long have you been working on that plan? It's time to pin their ears back and say to them, come on, quit giving us lip service. What's your plan? If there isn't a plan, why isn't there a plan? If you're working on it, how long have you been working on it? And what is the deadline you have given your staff or what have you to implement some type of plan, other than coming up with another BS law that's only going to create more problems. Okay? And one thing I'll mention, you said earlier about some people choosing to be homeless. I will stick with this, and I'm sure Frankie would say the same thing. When I was homeless and in the time I've served the homeless, I've never met anybody who chose to be homeless. I have met people that have remained to stay homeless because we just make it so damn hard to get out of.
Right.
And they finally get off the grid and they finally go, I'm done.
I give up. Yep.
I'm done. And then sometimes that turns into self-medicating and
Sure.
again, the problem just continues to go down this spiral. But I truly believe we can't fix all of it. We never will. But I believe that if we come together, private and public sector, you can't even get the nonprofits to work together because quite honestly, they're set up to compete against each other.
Right.
You know, but somehow get these folks to work together and see what happens. I mean, unfortunately, churches work more like gangs now. They got their colors. This is what we do.
Yep.
This is how we do it. Okay, and we're doing it right. Well, quite honestly, I don't know that any of us are doing it right. But I know that too many of us aren't doing not enough or doing anything.
Sure.
I'd rather be wrong knowing I tried than do nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Shelley, do you want to add anything to that before
Yeah, Shelley.
we close up?
I know. No, I'm good.
Are you sure? Scott's had a day. It's okay.
No, Scott has had a decade. Scott,
Well,
I am passionate, and you know, for anybody that has a problem with that, again, I apologize if I offend anybody, but I really don't. I'm not seeking to just offend people for the sake of offending people. But
point
you know
is
what?
to educate people.
One of my professors said to me, "The gospel is offensive."
Yeah.
Okay, and if you're not offending people, then they're not preaching. You're not preaching the gospel. And I often tell people, you know, and Frankie and I used to go around on this too years ago. Is Frankie's more of the street preacher, you know, and I'm just like I'm the guy out there going, screw you, what the hell we're going to do here?
Yeah.
God loves you. Let's move on. But as time has gone by, you know, we both would agree that actions, that's where it's at. And you know, he could probably correct me. It might have been St. Augustine. I'm not sure. But when it was said, basically it was saying that live out the gospel, but use words when necessary. And I paraphrase that horribly, but it's true. And so when people get bothered and offended, I go, well, what God are you worshiping? Now that will probably offend somebody else. I'm on a roll though. But I would, in all kidding aside, whether you're a believer or not, we have an issue out here. We have a problem. Let's just say you're not a believer. Do you have a frickin' heart?
Right.
Do you have compassion for your fellow
You don't have
man?
to believe to help.
Or you just, look, how about you're just shellfish enough you don't want them laying in your yard? Then let's find a way to come together and do something rather than just come up with another way to kick it down the can. Kick the can down the alleyway.
Well, I thank you for your passion and your truthfulness and all that you share. You too, Shelley. Thank you all for watching. Please
Thanks, Shelley.
subscribe.
You're welcome.
Please like and please share because there is a crisis locally and nationwide. So we are here to help our communities be educated and learn how we can help with this instead of just looking and walking away. So we will see you
Make
next time.
eye contact.
Yes. Thank you.